Welcome, everyone. This is Liz Christofferson with Empower Consulting Group. On behalf of Practice Pay Solutions, I'd like to welcome you to our Business Mastery Series program for today. We have a fabulous presentation. We'll be talking with Samantha Hartley about how to create jaw-dropping, client-getting messages shortly. But I just want to do a little housekeeping to make sure that everyone is aware of how we want to run the program today. So again, thanks to Practice Pay Solutions for putting these wonderful programs on every month. If you'd like to visit their website, it's www.practicepaysolutions.com. They provide an array of online payment processing services for businesses of all shapes and sizes. So this session is being recorded today. I just want to let you know that you will receive a copy of the recording via email through Practice Pay Solutions in about 24 to 48 hours after the program is completed. If you have questions, and we encourage engagement and interaction, please feel free to either type your question into the question box or to please type it into the chat box. We'll be monitoring those throughout the program, and we will feed those into Samantha so that she can give you some great insight and information about what to do to create these jaw-dropping client-getting messages. So let me go ahead and get started and tell you a little bit about Samantha Hartley. Samantha Hartley is with Enlighten Marketing. She works with socially responsible experts and entrepreneurs who are fed up with the lack of clients, too many rotten apples, and are suffering from peaks and valleys in their revenue stream. She helps them create jaw-dropping, client-getting messages and offers effective marketing techniques aligned with their values. The results are pretty important and outstanding. Not only do they routinely attract perfect clients, including 6- and 7-figure engagements, but they're also able to raise their prices anywhere from 30 to 800%. And what's most important is their ability to become more joyful business owners. Samantha draws from her experience in international marketing, working for Coca-Cola in places like Moscow, Russia, Asia, and Atlanta, Georgia. So Samantha, welcome. I'm going to go ahead and switch the presenter screen over to you. And thank you for sharing your brilliance with us about how to create jaw-dropping, client-getting messages.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really, really excited to talk to your audience on this topic.
Well,
so we'll get started. Well, thank you to Liz and also to my friend Neil Alcala of Practice Pay Solutions. As I said, our audience are coaches and consultants, experts and entrepreneurs, and I mean, almost all of them that I meet are struggling with their marketing messages. And, you know, I feel like everybody struggles alone and believes it to be only their issue. And so often when I'm meeting with my clients and talking with potential clients, they will say, as if admitting to a deep, dark secret, that they have such trouble answering the question, what do you do? And they feel almost especially embarrassed about that fact because they feel like what they do is so special and so important for them to communicate, and they want to have a way to share their message with the world so that it attracts those people they know they can help to them. So specifically, that's what we're going to do today. And before we even get started, I really want to let you in on that secret that almost nobody has a message that they're happy with. Really, almost nobody has a decent elevator pitch. I would even go so far as to say, of the people I meet, no one. So, and I hear back over and over again from my colleagues when they go to networking events, they'll be the only one, those who've studied with us, they'll be the only one who says, I was the only one there who had a jaw-dropping self-introduction, who had a prepared answer. And so I just want to let you know, if you take away nothing else from today, it's that creating the answer to what do you do, it's not going to come naturally. It's going to require intention. So I really want you to keep in mind that you're going to need to be planful and intentional about creating your personal answer to what do you do. And that requires a technique, a really specific way to talk about what you do that gets results every time. It gets a positive response every time. And that's exactly what I'm going to teach you today, is how to answer the question, what do you do, in ways that are going to get your perfect potential clients to say, OMG, oh my gosh, I need your card. So prepare for that, and I'm going to talk to you about some of the other things that we're going to cover today. In our agenda, I will let you know some of the biggest mistakes that we see our clients making before they come to us. What are those mistakes that are not working for them? We're going to talk about why good messages attract perfect clients faster, and some of the secrets about that that are going to help you to craft your messages better. I'll share with you what keeps coaches stuck in messages that aren't working for them and why it's so hard to get out of that situation on your own. And I'm going to share with you exactly what you need to do to create what we call jaw-dropping client-getting messages. I'm actually going to teach you a step-by-step formula so you'll be able to just jot that down, write in your answers, practice your message, and go get clients with it today. And then I'm going to let you know some next steps about how you can get started improving all of your messages in your business. So before I go too much further, Liz gave a wonderful introduction, and I appreciate that very much. I just want to kind of reveal that my messages were kind of not so jaw-dropping in the beginning. And I pretty much had to learn this process, exactly what I'm going to teach you, the hard way. So when I left the Coca-Cola company about over 10 years ago, I knew everything about marketing soda pop and nothing about how to market myself. And I was just so full of the corporate jargon and lingo that I just sounded like a buzzword bingo announcer. So everything that I said, it seemed like it was obvious to me, but no one could understand me. And I saw all of the things that my clients now come to me and tell me that they experience. This eyes glazing over, deer in the headlights looks, and people who kind of ask you what you do, and then when you begin to answer it, they kind of start to move away from you like they're sorry they asked. And it's an incredibly disheartening feeling. And that was totally my experience before I learned the formulas that I'm going to teach you today. It was really frustrating. All of my marketing was really frustrating. I wrote down things that I thought were crystal clear, and yet nobody else could understand them. And I found that really confusing and, you know, honestly embarrassing, because as a marketing consultant, I couldn't market myself. And I think you probably know what that feeling is like. And it feels doubly frustrating because you know there are people out there who need your help, and you want to just get this part completed so that you can get on to the work of working with your clients and serving. So since then, and I'll tell you a little more later on about how my message has improved and some of my most spectacular responses to my marketing message, but my business has thrived and my client attraction is really magnetic, and even other marketing consultants comment to me about how great my self-intro is, and I do get compliments from them. And so I think that just shows you the arc that you can take too. And if you feel like, all right, fine, it's easy for you, you're a marketing consultant, then I'd love to tell you about another example. So this is our client and student, Amra, and she is not a marketing consultant. She's a wonderful and spectacular life coach, and she a very different experience. After just lesson 1 of my program, she found herself in a parking lot and ran into this woman that she had seen before, and the woman said to her, "What do you do?" And she responded with her jaw-dropping self-introduction. And when Emra answered her, the woman said, her eyes widened and her jaw dropped, just like we promised, and she said, I know someone you need to talk to. And from that unexpected contact, Emra got a 7-year-long training engagement worth over 6 figures each year. And when she told me that, first we jumped up on the phone, jumped up and down on the ground, and while I was on the phone with her, and then I asked her for more details, and she said to me, well, normally I wouldn't even have used my marketing message. I would have just said I'm a trainer, but I was so fresh from that lesson to you, and so I said my jaw-dropping self-introduction just like you teach us to. And I really want you to make a note of that, please, in your notes, that you want to use your prepared self-intro all the time, even in the most casual-seeming situations. This was Emra by chance running into somebody in a parking lot. It wasn't like the formal marketing networking thing, and she wasn't speaking in front of a group. It was a totally casual situation, and those are the opportunities when using your self-intro. Your prepared message is going to work for you. It's going to get you clients. You never know what can happen, and look what happened for Emra. So I want to talk just about some of the biggest messaging mistakes that we see. And before I do, I want to make sure that I don't sound like I'm blaming anybody. I know that these are innocent mistakes. And I think by examining these, you can begin to get some clues as to what the foundation of effective marketing messages are. So I'm going to just go through these, and then we'll twist them around and talk about what can make them right. But some of the biggest mistakes that I see, the first one is that nobody can understand them. And I told you this about me when I was first starting out. I would say what seems to be the right answer. I would say what I do, but people were like, their eyes glazed over. They didn't understand the words that I was saying. It didn't have any meaning for them. And my new clients will always say, nobody gets what I do, or I know that person needs my services, but she doesn't seem to understand that I can help her. And so I know that that is a very frustrating situation for you, especially when you feel like you are being crystal clear. And one of the things I'll remind people is that you can communicate this in a way that other people will understand. And one of my favorite examples of this are some engineers that I work with. And you can imagine the engineering, especially the kind they do, it's kind of complicated to communicate. But when we work with them on this formula and on their messages, we finally nailed their 30-second self-introduction. And then there was this silence in the room. And one of the engineers said, I think we just finally realized what it is we actually do. And then there was this pause, and then he said, and now I can finally explain it to my wife, too. So you realize that you've been talking in a way that only you can understand, and whether that's engineering terminology or Reiki or life coaching terminology or marketing jargon, whatever that is that we're using, we're going to learn how to turn that around so that other people can understand it. The next thing is that messages are dull. And, I feel bad saying that because I know you're passionate about what you do, but the problem is that that passion isn't communicating. When most people answer the question, what do? They answer with a label. I'm a life coach. I'm a Mary Kay representative. I'm a chiropractor. Those are very dull messages. And then sometimes they want to share their process with you. So you'll hear a lot of business consultants say things like, well, I do this process, Six Sigma, and we come in and we do, and they explain their process. Or, well, I do a 6-month coaching program. That's how it works. But it's, what could be more dull than that? And a lot of holistic practitioners will say, well, I offer a variety of modalities depending on what your personal needs are, and that just isn't compelling. It's like the plot summary of a really boring movie, and that's when people's eyes glaze over and they just stop listening to it. So one of the biggest things that I see, especially from creative types, and if this is you, then you're going to recognize yourself in this, is that the messages change all the time. Especially if you're creative, and I'm creative too, and sometimes if you're a perfectionist, you feel like you want to constantly reinvent your message or revisit it or revise it. Redoing it all the time. And I understand that impulse, because if you're unsatisfied with your message, it seems like you should be constantly revising it and rewriting it. But there are many, many problems with this, and only the biggest one of them is timing. When most people are revising their message, right before they're about to stand up and introduce themselves, when everybody's going around. Right? So if you've been in that situation before where everybody's going around the room and you're one of the next people to stand up and introduce yourself, and you're frantically rewriting your message in your head, well, that's the worst time. You know that that's not going to be the best version of your message, and you're not going to be in a good energy to introduce yourself at that time. So that definitely, revising your message at the very last second is one of the worst things that you can do. But feeling like, today I'm in a new mood, and so I have a new message, that also is really ineffective, and it erodes trust in your message, and you're not really able to stand in the full power of what you want to communicate when you're doing that. And so, as I mentioned, doing this, having messages that are, done on the fly, they just don't build trust. And so too much variation in your message, people start to doubt it. And there's a subtle sense, kind of on an unconscious level, that this is not exactly your real message, and that you're not standing behind the full weight of the full truth of what you're saying. And that's true even if they're hearing your message for the first time. If you deliver your self-introduction and you're stumbling over your words, or waffling, or being unsure, or sounding like you're creating it on the fly, then it makes the listener feel like you yourself are not sure about your own message. And if it doesn't come through with conviction and confidence, then the listener has a sense of doubt, like, well, are you sure? Is that really what you do? Your self-introduction is your chance to engage someone as much with your energy as with your actual words. And having a message that you have it down pat, and you can say it with confidence and stand in the full truth of it, that, almost more than anything else, is what makes for a jaw-dropping client-getting message. So from there, let's go to the good news, which is why good messages attract clients faster. So I'm going to tell you 4 qualities which are going to turn those poor messages into winners that will do most of the heavy lifting in your marketing for you. Effective messages attract clients really quickly. And that's because, first of all, they're clear. Now, I define all the terms that I use. When I say clear, here's what I mean. When you say it, they get it. Right? No time for translation, no time for understanding or figuring out the jargon or anything like that. You say it, they get it. So it's the difference between needing a flip chart and 30 minutes to explain the engineering services and having a 30-second message that gets your potential client's attention immediately. That's what clear is. Compelling. I define compelling as like grabbing your listener by the lapels, right? It just grabs their attention. These messages have perfect clients asking you for your business card in seconds. A compelling message is the reason somebody says, OMG, oh my gosh, I need your card. And I want to interject just one image here, because this is something that I've seen over and over again, when someone will say what they do, and the person that they're talking to will literally like grab them by the arm and lead them away, kind of to a quiet place, and say, did you just say my biggest secret concern out loud? No, that's not what they're really saying in words. They're saying, did you just say that you do this, or did you just say that? You've hit a nerve with them, and they feel a connection, and they want to almost go and immediately have a private conversation with you. So that is compelling. And I've seen some other examples personally and from what I've been hearing from my clients, and there's another example that I think is just really fabulous, and it's a dog trainer. And the dog trainer's message is, I work with the owners of big dogs who, and she almost never gets to say the rest of her message because somebody almost always interrupts and says, I need your card. And if you have a big dog, then you know why that happens. I have 2 big dogs, so I know why that happens. And another example is my husband, and I've taught him with some difficulty. He was very resistant to learning the formulas that I'm going to show you later, and I'll talk to you about why that is. But His message begins, I work with entrepreneurs who are struggling with self-sabotage. And once again, he doesn't even get through the entirety of that message in most cases because somebody will almost always interrupt him and start to tell him about themselves. Oh, I know exactly what you mean. I do that to myself all the time. You know, there was this one time when they're already telling him their self-sabotage stories, which means that his message has engaged them already. And the end result of that conversation is almost always, so can you help me with that? Do you have a card? That's compelling. The next quality of really good messages that attract clients faster is that they're consistent. Now, obviously, when you know that you can be getting that kind of engagement from a potential client, then you're going to want to repeat that success over and over again. And so, naturally, it's pretty motivating to keep your message consistent. But also, a consistent message is easy to memorize. It's easy to deliver with conviction and confidence, and it reliably attracts attention. And this is the best part of it. You can actually stop crafting your message on the fly in your mind and listen to what others around you are saying. Because you never know. It's possible that somebody who stands up at that table to introduce themselves can be somebody who can help you, either a joint venture partner or a service provider. And listening just isn't easy to do when you're composing in your mind right up until the last minute. So that's why we encourage you to get your message down pat and stick with it. And finally, and I know this is important to you, it's that they're authentic. They're real. When you have a good message that you've crafted with intention, it's speaking from your heart about the promise you make to your clients. When you do what you do for them, when you deliver your full value, you're fulfilling that promise. It's a powerful experience that builds trust. And this authenticity is going to come through in your demeanor and in your energy, and it's very attractive. What I mean is that people feel it on a gut level, and it pulls them to you. And it's this sense that someone gets from you that leads them to say, give me your card. So what I think is interesting is that even though we're talking a lot about verbal and in-person messages, you know, like at networking events or other kind of in-person situations, all of these things come through just as powerfully on websites and in printed materials. The energy of the message still comes through. All of these factors are going to be relevant to your messages across the board, across media. So what keeps experts and entrepreneurs stuck with their messages? Again, these are these innocent mistakes. They usually don't know how to get out of the situation. And the number one thing is they're not sure what to say. And I hear this from clients all the time. I'm actually going to show you some of the words they use. I feel fuzzy in my mind. I'm not exactly sure how to word what I do. How do I find those words for what I do and to show people the benefits of it? I have fear of what to say. I'm afraid to choose those words. I'm afraid to answer that question the way I really want to. I'm afraid of being rejected. So there's just fear that they might say the wrong thing. They don't know how to articulate the value. And I think this is really interesting because I will hear this, and I heard this from my client Louise, who is a life coach. I think she's in Scotland, and what she said to me was, what I do is unknown here in my community. And so I have to do so much teaching to explain to people what it is. And she doesn't know how to do that in 30 seconds or 15 seconds or the amount of time that she has to catch that attention. A lot of times people feel that they can't articulate the value of investing with them, that potential clients are reluctant to invest in their services. People don't really get how I can help them. Do you find that too? They don't get it. People don't get the ways that you can help them get what they want. And that can lead a lot to frustration and resignation, just the feeling of, well, gosh, if I can't make this work, I don't know. I've tried, and this problem isn't getting solved. It's not budging, and I guess I'm going to be stuck with it. I guess it's just going to take me a long time to attract clients, and I'm going to have to spend a lot of time talking to them about it. And I just want to share one of the things that kind of gets me fired up with some clients sometimes. It's when they say, you know, I was talking to somebody about what we do, and they just weren't getting it. And, you know, they'll say, Samantha, it's just so hard to communicate to people what we do. And when he said this to me, this is a business consultant, and he said it like his business was so uniquely complicated, like quantum physics or something. And I said to him, listen, I get that it is hard for you, but it's not hard to explain your value to a client, and I can show you how to do that in a way that you are going to find simple and repeatable. So if these are things that are keeping you stuck, I want to offer you another way to do it. So I want you to imagine sharing what you do in response to the question, what do you do, and having someone ask for your card. Having someone's eyes light up and them really engage with you. Wow, tell me more about that. I want you to imagine hearing my favorite words, oh, here's my card. Can you come see me on Monday? I'm going to tell you later about when I heard that one time. And then I want you to imagine feeling really confident and secure about all of your marketing messages and that they're really reflecting the truth about you, your full value, and your unique personality. You know, you can bring that out through your messages. So let's get to some how-to. I want to talk to you about how to create jaw-dropping client-getting messages, because what we really specialize in doing is creating templates and formulas that kind of do this for you. And basically, if you understand the logic of how we work through it, it's going to be really easy for you to create these messages. So there's pretty much 4 things that you need to do to create these messages. And the first thing is that you want to answer potential clients' questions as they arise in their minds. Okay, answer those questions as they come up. And that might sound like you're doing mind reading or ESP, but actually the interesting thing is that people have the same sequence of questions going through their minds when they meet someone for the first time. And fortunately, we know that sequence of questions, and we've laid it out for you so that you can create a message that's going to answer those questions right away. You're going to craft, this is the second thing, craft a jaw-dropping self-introduction. And if you feel like that's easier said than done, then just keep in mind. I've got a formula for you, and as you saw with Emra, that formula is all that it took for her to get a 7-year, 6-figure engagement. It's an incredibly powerful tool, this formula, and once you have your jaw-dropping self-introduction, you're going to be able to collect your marketing messages in one place that you can refer back to. I'm going to show you that, and we call it, it's a document we call a UMG. So this tool is going to basically be a concise synopsis of all of your marketing messages that you can refer back to anytime you need to generate something new. And you know in our businesses, we're constantly having to create new messages. And then I'm going to show you how you can leverage your UMG to get clients. So I find that it's critical to get things out of your head, off of your hard drive, and in front of your audience. Okay, so a lot of times people are creating these messages or they're perfecting these documents that are on their computer. And you've got to get it in front of your potential audience. And a lot of times potential learners, perpetual learners are constantly perfecting something. And I think we all know, a lot of us who are experts are perpetual learners. We always feel like we need to know more before we can get started, or we need to know more and improve something before we can get it out there. And I basically want to foil that part of you that wants to keep working on messages by helping you to leverage the UMG to get it out there. So I've got some terminology in here. I'm just going to unpack that as we go through here. So let's get started. The first thing we talked about was answering your prospects' questions, this potential client's questions, as they arise in their minds. And the number one question that they have in their mind is on your screen right now. And this is a very depressing question. It seems really rude, and most people are too polite to ask you this to your face. And so this is what they're thinking. And what they're going to say to you is, what do you do? Okay, but the fact is that this is what they're thinking. And if we don't give them the answer to that question immediately, then that's when you get the glazed over eyes. That's when they start to kind of fidget around and maybe go refresh their drink or something, because we have lost the opportunity. I've been evaluating someone's website for them, and what we said basically was the same thing as this. When someone comes to your website, they're thinking the same thing, and you have between 5 and 7 seconds to answer this question for them. Do I need to know you? Is this what I'm looking for? So the answer to the question, do I need to know you, is going to break down basically into 4 sub-questions that we're going to answer. First, who do you work with? If we describe the people we work with immediately and clearly, it's going to let them know, the questioner know, that we can help someone just like him or her. What problems can you help with? So most marketing messages leave this out. And what that means is that people have to figure it out on their own. Problems are very compelling. When something is broken in our lives or around us, in our relationships, in our businesses, it has our full attention. Big dogs, self-sabotage, these kinds of problems get attention fast. How do you help? So let them know what things are like when you solve those problems, solutions, outcomes, results that you get. And does it really work? People are curious, but they're also skeptical about solutions or results that you claim you can get. They want to know, they want to trust that your solution works, and actually, even better than that, they want to know that it would work for them or someone like them. So I didn't invent these questions. This is marketing science, basically, that shows that these are the questions that people ask, whether they're meeting you in person, reading your materials, visiting your website, and you've got to cover each and every one of these and do it persuasively in all of your marketing messages. So I'm going to show you the formula for a jaw-dropping self-introduction. So you can jot this down. You can jot down the formula. You can jot down what your responses to it would be. But I want you to do this as we're going through it, because you can go and use this like this afternoon. So we basically, as I mentioned in the very, very beginning, the first thing is that we recommend that you craft this self-introduction. I want you to do this with intention and then memorize it. So this crafting is an intentional process. It's a specific formula that is simple to memorize, and as you practice it, you'll notice that it becomes more and more natural as a way to introduce yourself. And the interesting thing is that it's not necessarily going to be the way that other people are introducing themselves, because as we've said, most people are not effective at it, so you're going to have to be comfortable with standing out a little bit, saying a message that doesn't sound like everybody else's, but you're not going to have a problem with that when you're the one going home with a handful of cards, or opening your inbox to see a number of inquiries coming in through your website. In my course, I teach 5 different variations on this basic formula, so that everybody who feels like they're an iconoclast, they feel like they can find the formula that will fit their situation and their personality, but still be proven effective. So that's in my course, Jaw-Dropping Client Getting Messages. But we find that even though everybody wants to put their own unique spin on it, you can do that as long as you answer those basic questions and follow the formulas that we've set out. So it's basically pretty simple. The prospective client asks you, what do you do? And you answer with, I work with this target audience who has these problems. And for brevity's sake, I've used problems, but it can be issues, challenges, pains, whatever is the big reason that your clients come to you. And we want to describe the target audience, and this is really important, so that other people would be able to recognize or identify them. So often people say, well, they're women who want to grow and change their lives, or they're businesses that are trying to make better decisions and improve the bottom line. And I can't recognize that. I wouldn't be able to give you a referral to someone like that. So you need to describe those people and the issues or problems that you solve in that way, so that your listener would be clear about exactly who you help and with what. And then in many cases, the prospect is going to display interest. They're going to say, wow, oh really? How do you do that? And you'll say, well, I help them to, and then achieve these results or outcomes. Now, a lot of times you won't even get to this section of your message. I mentioned earlier about I work with entrepreneurs who struggle with self-sabotage. He doesn't get to the second part of his message. Or I work with the owners of big dogs who she doesn't even get to the rest of her message. If you don't get to the rest of your message and somebody already wants your card, don't even worry about it. You don't have to plow through it. Just engage with the person who's talking with you. The goal of all of this is engagement. So in this second part, if you should get to it, then it's really helpful to be able to say, I help them to achieve these results or outcomes. And I think what you can see is missing from here is boring process, right? It's the part where you say 6 months or Six Sigma, or we come in and we bring all of your team together and we work them through our signature system and blah, blah, blah. Nobody wants to hear about that part. There's also no labels. At no time in here are we saying I'm a chiropractor or a consultant or a coach. We're going to leave all of that out and just talk about who we're helping and then the problems that you solve and the results or outcomes that you can get for them. Just answering those questions listed earlier. And that just leaves one question left, which is the does it work? So if you've told them this part and they say, wow, I'm really interested in hearing about that, then you want to tell them a success story. And I define a success story as like a 3-sentence case study. And the reason I say that is because a lot of people want to go into like a really grandiose, long, detailed story with a bunch of depth, and you rarely have a situation, if you're in person, in which people want to hear that kind of a long story. And certainly it isn't easy to memorize. So a lot of times on a website, people want to write a really, really long case study as well. And again, most people want to hear like a 3-sentence synopsis of that. So like before, during, and after, something like that. The point of a story is just to substantiate your point and prove that you can do what you say. So just a short case study saying, I did work with this person who had these problems, and when I was done with them, they had gotten this outcome. Personalized, I like to use people's first name because people can begin to imagine that person. So even if you're a life coach or you work with people who you can't necessarily reveal their identity, you can use kind of a pseudonym or a placeholder name for them. And that helps people to engage with the story. So what I want to do is, obviously we've gone through the components of this, so I want to give you an example of it. And you can be kind of modifying your response to this as I go through it. So let's take the example of Christy, and let's say that she's a professional organizer. And I love to use professional organizer examples because I think their messages are really easy to do. And also, I am such a good candidate for a professional organizer, so I would always be shouting that I needed her card. So if I met Christy in a networking situation, I might ask her, what do you do, Christy? And she would say, I work with home-based entrepreneurs whose messy desks and untidy workspaces are hurting their creativity and productivity. And at that point, I would ask for her card, right? That would get my attention really quickly. And if you're listening and you think, I'm not really that interested in that, well, maybe you have a tidy desk or this isn't an issue for you. So the point of a message like this is it's going to attract somebody who really has that problem. And I'm a creative person who always has a messy desk and always has had. And even though my desk is never tidy, I'm always interested in getting help from people who feel like they could help me get organized. So that's why I would respond to her. And that would be a perfect client for Christy. People who feel their messy desk and untidy workplaces are a big problem for them. So let's say I said to her, wow, well, how do you help these home-based entrepreneurs? Because I'm not saying I need her yet. I'm just saying I'm interested in that message. How do you help them? And she might say, I help them, then here's the results or outcome. I help them create and maintain inspiring workspaces in which they can find everything they need. As a result, their creativity flows, productivity improves, and most of my clients recover as much as 2 hours a day. So she's got results in there already. Results about how I could quantify her work with me. You may have heard when Liz introduced me that I talked about my clients' results, beginning to attract perfect clients, steady stream of perfect clients and also quantifiable results, that most of my clients increase their prices anywhere from 25 to 800% as they improve their marketing messages. It's very easy for you to weave quantifiable results into your message. You can do it right here. Now that is going to get them business cards. So Christy could tell a success story here if I hadn't already gotten her card out of her and made an appointment for her to come over. She could spend 3 or so sentences. You want to make sure that your case study aligns with your target audience. So if she has said she works with home-based entrepreneurs, she should not tell a story about a teacher whom she went in to help, even if that was a recent and very successful engagement, right? And this happens a lot where you talk about a target audience and yet the examples that you give are different. So make sure that you talk about exactly who you said you helped. So I would need to hear an example about a home-based entrepreneur who had a messy desk. And again, I like a before, during, and after aspect, but leaving out any kind of, quote-unquote, gory details, right? We don't need to hear too much about the process. So what she might say is, I worked with a relationship coach, so that's a home-based entrepreneur, whose home office was covered in sticky notes, which just made it impossible for her to see her desk and get things done. I helped her systematize her approach to note-taking and scheduling. That's a little bit of process, but not too much, so that she was able to track both her ideas and her appointments. And with the time she freed up, she was able to implement one of her marketing ideas and attracted 3 new clients in just 1 month. Okay, so I made all that up in a structure that I recommend, but you can see that that's something you could duplicate easily. And I actually want to give you an example, a real-life example from one of our clients, Stephen Moulton of Action Insight. And I would tell you what he does, but I'm just going to give you his message. He says, I work with healthcare organizations that struggle with hiring and keeping good employees. I empower their leaders to hire, develop, and keep team members that thrive, which I call STARS, select, talented, adaptable, resourceful stewards. Our clients are able to reduce turnover, usually by 20% or more, and improve patient satisfaction by over 20 points. And he also has a success story. But I want to go ahead and move on. I think you're getting the idea here. You can make substantiatable, add those numbers part of your actual marketing message. You don't even have to have a success story when the marketing message is already containing that. So it's just an insight that we teach in our program, is to get those quantifiable or measurable results into the actual message that you're sharing. And before I go on, actually, I do want to just emphasize another thing. You're hearing creative and specific language in here, not just the same old ordinary boring language. I help them to. He says, I empower their leaders. Whatever is the language that you think is going to make more of an emotional impression. And it doesn't have to be jargon. It shouldn't be jargon. It should just be creative and more specific language, because that's what gets people's attention fast. All of that plus those quantifiable results. And one of the frequently asked questions that I get is, what if I'm new at this and I don't have those quantifiable results yet? What if I just don't have a success story? How do I create my message? And so what I would say to you is that when I meet coaches and consultants who are new to this, they may not have in their current role a success story that they can tell that's, since they've been in this actual position. But the fact is that most coaches and consultants, and really anybody who's in the advice business, has been doing this for long enough that they have an example of someone they've helped who got results from working with them. And so they don't have to have been a paying client. They don't have to have been since you've been in this role. I'm not asking you to portray them as that. I'm just asking you to talk about somebody that you helped who fits your target audience, had the challenge that you can help with, got a result or an outcome, and you can tell their story. Now, if you don't have that, if you're brand new and don't have any story that you can tell, then that's your first job. I had a client who was a weight loss coach, and we worked on her message and putting this together, and she didn't have a success story yet. So I said, here's what you got to do. You got to go get the fastest results you can possibly get for someone, ethically, right, in a way that is healthy for them. But that's your mission, because your marketing won't be as effective until you do that. sometimes you can ask people to be your clients and say to them, I need to create a success story really quickly. Would you work with me? And that's very appealing to them. I've done that a number of times. I'm looking for my next success story. Can you maybe help me with that? So then they commit to implementing because you need their success story. And, of course, you're committing to getting them results. Very compelling. Just another little tip there for you. Okay, so let's move on to how we take this self-introduction and we turn it into all of your other marketing messages. So basically, we invented this tool, and it's called a UMG. And you'll notice that UMG is related to OMG, right? We want to get people to say, OMG, I need to work with you. So we said, what can we do here? We created this document that is it's a template we use to pull all of your marketing messages into one place. And it's going to become the source of all of your other marketing materials. And the first step to putting this together is to think from the perspective of your clients. So just as when somebody says, what do? We don't say, I am a marketing consultant. We say, I work with experts and entrepreneurs. We start talking about them immediately. You want to do the same thing in this document. I read so many written marketing materials that start with I or we. You know, we were founded in 1975 or something like that. That is a dreadful place to begin marketing materials. It's like with the most boring thing first. All of that background is just like the opposite of where you want to start. So keep in mind that people are always thinking, do I need to know you? And so when you start immediately talking to them about how you can help them or what might be going on with them, then you draw them in because they're immediately seeing how it can relate to them. The second thing that you want to do is clearly address a specific problem. Remember, I was talking about the way that we are all kind of immersed in our own world of problems. And again, it doesn't mean that they're negative. It just means that here's the thing that's bugging me, and here's the thing I want to change, and here's a this and that. So when we talk about a specific problem, and eventually a specific solution, it's going to attract the attention of potential clients. And this tool is actually going to become an article that will elaborate with relevant detail on how you can help them. The UMG document needs to explain the steps that your potential clients need to take to solve the problem. So this gets a little teeny bit more into process. And what it does is, because it's so high level, this is no more than a 2-page document, it's going to give some insights into how you work. What is interesting is that some of my clients are a little hesitant to write down the steps that their potential clients would need to take to solve a problem. They're like, well, what if they take this and then they just do the steps and then they don't need me? What I say is, like, if that worked, then I wouldn't have so many organizing books on my shelf. Right? Basically, you can't give away the solution to everything you can do for your clients in just 2 pieces of paper. Okay? You're going to give high-level steps about what your clients need to do to solve their problems. It's going to reveal that you are an expert without giving away the farm. Okay? So I wouldn't really worry about that. It's more about hooking your reader and interesting them than in giving away all your trade secrets, which I highly doubt you can do in 2 pages. You, of course, want to wait to talk about yourself and your services, but you get to. So once someone is very interested in what you, in your expertise, they're like, wow, you can solve my situation and you can achieve this for me, and you've kind of laid out what I need to do to go about that, well, then they become very interested in you. And you can add a compelling bio and finally talk about yourself. Now, in that value-packed bio, steps that they can take. They've read about you. They believe in your authority and credibility. And then you need to say, what do they do next? Should they go to your website and fill out a form? Should they call you to set up a free consultation? Whatever that is, you want to have a call to action at the bottom of your UMG. And remember, the UMG is what gets people to say, OMG, I need to work with you. This is more detailed than a self-introduction. And just one thing about self-intros, a lot of times people feel like, I need to get clients with my self-introduction. If I go to this networking event, I need to leave it with clients, or I need for people to go to my website, and then hire me from there. And I think in those cases, you're really expecting a self-introduction to do more than it's supposed to do. It's going to get attention and interest. It's going to get a meeting. It's going to get somebody to ask for your card. Then you're going to have a consultation of some kind, right? You don't want to just work with everybody who thinks they need to work with you. You need to have a qualifying or disqualifying consultation with someone in most cases. Sometimes if you have a certain kind of service, then they might just hire you directly. But keep in mind that usually after your self-intro, somebody is interested, and then that leads to a next meeting. And what happens in that meeting? What do I say in that meeting? The UMG holds that information. It's just the next level of information someone needs to say, yes, I need to work with you. So getting that call to action and that bio in there is the last part of it. It helps them move them to take the next step. So this is an image of what a UMG would look like. And I know it's a little too small to read, but my point is to show you that this actual, it's kind of the gathering place for your marketing messages. It in itself is a very condensed document. And it's actually beautiful enough that you could use it on its own. And we have a lot of clients who say, should I just send this out? And what I will say is you can just send this out in some cases. But the point is for it to be a gathering place for your marketing messages. It's concise enough that you can expand on anything here. But if you come out of a corporate background, I would say this is something similar to a brand positioning statement, if that makes sense. And if not, this is basically everything that anyone needs to know about you on 2 pages. So this is an example from our client Anne-Marie Clear of Clear Directions, condensed onto 2 pages. It's got white space. It has her logo. It flows beautifully. There's both bullet points and numbered lists. And when you read it, you don't feel like you're reading a marketing or selling document. You feel like you're reading an article, and you're being educated about a situation, which might just be your situation. And in this case, this one actually even includes a success story. So how do you leverage the UMG to get clients? You can actually take this UMG and it's going to get you clients. And it blows my mind to think about how versatile this document is because with just a few modifications, just pulling a couple of things out of here, you can use it as your home page on your website. I have one client that we wrote his UMG, was like literally took it and put this section and that section right onto his home page. SEO optimized even, if in case that is something that's a helpful idea. You can get keywords into this. This can become, in a much more condensed version, you can pull your email signature out of here or a tagline or more. Just going to show you an image of this. You can develop articles because when you bring up the problem areas for your client or the outcomes that they're seeking, you've touched on the biggest problems they have. Well, that is fodder or idea generation for articles you can write. Just adding a little more meat to the topics in here, you can create a signature program or system out of it. And I mentioned that you're going to have a selling conversation with your clients. Well, this is the very same process that you're going to use to enroll clients to work with you. It's covering all of those big bases. From these 2 pages, you're going to find inspiration for your free giveaway for building your email list, and just so much more. Hey, I just want to draw attention to outgoing voicemail. You know, a lot of times when you call someone, they just have that kind of same old standard message. If you can just take that jaw-dropping self-introduction that you've put together based on the thing I showed you earlier and record that on your voicemail, you're not going to believe it. It's incredible. People, so many more people who know you are going to know what you do. They're going to, in many cases, get, quote unquote, what you do for the first time. So that is a hot tip. It's one of the big things that I teach my clients to do. I actually insist that they do. One other thing to mention is that I work with a lot of offline businesses who work with clients in their community, and they see clients in person, and honestly their websites just don't do anything for them, so they very quickly are able to take these materials and replace the junky ones on their website. But when they go to visit those clients, you know, you feel like you need to have a brochure or some kind of a leaf behind. And those materials are so often just dreadful. And so we have them use the UMG or a version of it instead. And some of my clients also do direct mail or letters, and one of them is a legal consultant. And because she's a legal consultant, I can't use her last name, so her name is Sue. And she had been sending out these letters to attorneys to get them to be her client. And she wasn't getting any response from it. And she talked to me about it, and she showed me the letter, and I said, I can't even give you notes on this letter. You need to do a UMG, and then we'll go from there, her letters. And she said, the UMG, a case tomorrow. So this could turn around so quickly for you. It's really amazing. My colleague, Andy Riegler-Andrews, who does most of the UMG writing in my business, is based in Germany. And one of his clients got a you're ever wondering, will this work for small businesses and big businesses? Will it work outside the United States? Because we have a lot of clients who are Europe and South Africa and Australia. Yes, this definitely will. The structure of this tool translates. You're going to determine the content of it, but the template is built in. Now, your UMG is actually going to become no fewer than 36 different messages in your business. So I talked about voicemails, all of these things that we so rarely think about. Yes, articles. Yes, website homepage. I mean, don't you just feel so depleted when you think about writing the services page for your website? All of this stuff that you have to constantly be creating, the UMG is actually going to generate for you. I'm not sure if I told you the whole name of it. It's called the Ultimate Message Generator. So I'm talking to you about this because the self-introduction is going to become the UMG. And really the self-introduction contains the seeds of this. And one of the things that I'm going to share with you later is how you can get a copy of this, this chart, this colorful graphic. It's part of a checklist that I offer. You can have a free copy of it. It's 36 ways to use your self-introduction and get clients. So I just wanted to share some inspiring stories with you in case you're not inspired enough already. I love talking about this, as you can hear, and I love when my clients and experts and entrepreneurs and coaches and consultants, people who want to help people transform a message that isn't working for them into something that does begin to work for them. So first is our client, Michelle, who, gosh, a couple of weeks before this, she said, people at networking events keep giving me feedback on my message. They were like giving her unsolicited advice. And when we transformed her message, the next thing that she heard was, hey, I'd like to know more about you. She began to attract potential partners to her business. You sound like you're doing interesting things with interesting people. I'd like to know more about you. That was a big change for her. This is our client, Luella Rosie Jones, and after just lesson 1, she's one of my favorites, we really like to get things into action immediately. She said, I want you to know that the impact of following your lessons exactly as you laid them out really does work. So I promised you we do formulas and templates and tools that are step-by-step and fill in the blank. She says, I was able to obtain my very first perfect client who pays my hourly fee without blinking an eye, no questions at all, and that makes my heart sing big time. Luella Rosie is very passionate, as seen by many all caps. This is our client, Stephen Moulton, that I told you about, who works with healthcare companies who are struggling with turnover. He says he worked with me on his message, and I really helped him read the label that he could not read from inside the bottle. That's one of the phrases that I use. I help you to read the label from outside the bottle, because when you're inside the bottle, sometimes things are not as clear to you. So he says, I just want to say it's given me a lot of confidence. And this week I started working on the largest customer project I've ever closed, worth over $150,000. So that's a big project, and that may seem too big or too outlandish for you, but Stephen is a management consultant working with very large clients. This is our client, Sean, who is a certified hypnotherapist, and she's a really good example of somebody who should never say her label when answering the question, what do you do? She's in Georgia, and I love Georgia. I lived in Atlanta, Georgia, and what I think is important is that sometimes in small towns, people feel not exactly great about certain labels, let's say. And so life coach, I mentioned, our client Louise says people around her don't necessarily get what a life coach is. And I think for Sean, saying that she's a hypnotherapist wouldn't necessarily attract clients for her. But what did? On the right, you'll see what she did with her UMG. She turned it into a one-sheet. This is the back and front of a one-sheet. And she advertised at, she exhibited at a bridal show. She offers this wonderful service to help brides look great in their wedding photos by slimming down. And so basically what happened was that there were over 500 brides who were coming to this event, and they'd been told, don't buy anything at the show. And despite that, Shawn sold 3 of her show specials at that event. So these materials are super powerful and effective. And I just wanted to share my story with you because I talked in the beginning about how when I first became a consultant that I would say what I did and no one would understand me and I would feel very bummed out like a not very successful marketing consultant. And when I learned the formulas that we've talked about on this call, the very same formulas that I've already taught you and that we expand upon in my course, I met this guy at a networking event, and he said, what do you do? And I said my answer, and he said, hey, can you come and see me on Monday? And I did, and that turned into a $44,100 project only 2 weeks later. So you're going to be able to turn this around just as quickly for yourself. I've got a free copy of that graphic and our checklist of 36 ways to use your self-intro to get clients. It's located at PPS. PPS stands for Practice Pay Solutions, our wonderful hosts. pps.clientgettingmessages.com. You're welcome to go there and sign up. You can download that free graphic, begin to work on your messages, and you'll also get access to some free training that we offer, and you can learn more about our programs.
Well, Samantha, it's been absolutely wonderful hearing your presentation today. I know from my own experience there are times when I can articulate very clearly and very well who we are, what we do, how we add value. And there are other times when it feels like, oh my gosh, what did I just tell these people, right? And you see, like you say, you see their eyes glaze over, and then you go, oh, I can't believe I just did that. So I love the way that you presented this information in a very methodical manner, helping us to really understand what it's all about and the work that needs to be done to be very, very effective. So I'd like to encourage the audience and those of you who will be listening to the recording after the fact, take the time, go to the website, pps.clientgettingmessages.com. Learn more about what Samantha Hartley has to offer and take that step because being successful in business is all about growing and evolving and stepping outside our comfort zone. So again, on behalf of Practice Pay Solutions, Samantha, thank you so much for sharing your brilliance with us today. Thanks to the audience for your participation. We look forward to getting to learn more about each and every one of you on our next call.
Thanks so much, everybody. I look forward to meeting you by email and sometime in the future.
All right, wonderful. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.